So you want to get into reenacting. What even is reenacting? Well, reenacting is defined as an activity used to educate in which history enthusiasts put on uniforms and recreate historical events or periods. There are many ways in which reenactments can operate. Most commonly, there is a live demonstration of major battles in which reenactors participate in mock combat scenarios and try to paint a picture of what this type of fighting would have looked like in person for the public. On the other hand, there's living history, where static displays are set up and used to demonstrate what a day in the life of these men and women of history would have been like. Both of these forms are very commonly seen at these reenactments. The timeline knows no boundaries. You can find reenactors who portray as far back as the Roman Empire, all the way up to our modern militaries. So now that you know what reenacting is, you've decided you're interested. More specifically, you've decided upon the US GI during World War II as your impression. Now what? Well, before you start spending tons of money on impression items and kit, you might want to pump the brakes. It's important to start asking yourself some questions, such as, am I old enough to start reenacting? Who am I going to reenact with? Where are they located?
That is where we come in. We here at the USGI Reenactor Guide have one thing in mind, and that is to help mold the reenactors of tomorrow. Without you, this hobby would cease to exist. That is why we want to get you started off on the right foot and help you avoid some vital mistakes we have made in the past. So, it is important to ask yourself right off the bat,
Typically in a combat setting, most reenactments and reenactment groups require the participants to be at least 17 years of age to participate, and at least 18 years to handle a firearm. During World War II, the enlistment age of the average soldier was 17 to 18 years of age. It may be a bummer to wait, but for the most accurate and appropriate impression, it's best you wait till you are of the appropriate age. But don't let this discourage you from collecting to support your impression till you are of age. Alright, we've determined you're the appropriate age. What next? Depending on where you are located, you might have an easier or a more difficult time locating units in your area. It is not uncommon for reenactors to join units in states that they do not live in. Your best chances of finding a reenactment group to join will come in the form of reenactments. Attending local reenactments in your area will provide you with multiple different groups you can approach and ask about possible membership opportunities. Most groups are always looking for new members, so do not be afraid to keep your options open. Many reenacting units portray a specific division that was in service during the war. As such, it is imperative to conduct thorough research upon whichever division you end up portraying. This research will help determine what uniform and kit items you will need to purchase to portray the specific unit you are a member of. Now that you've picked a unit to reenact with, you will need to start assembling your basic infantryman uniform and webbing. Keep in mind that many units will provide newcomers with some loaner uniforms and webbing when they first start the hobby, but it is expected of you to obtain your basic kit within the first year of your reenacting career. The basics of what you will need to start an impression for World War II US GI that you could use for early, mid, and late war impressions would be your complete wool uniform, which consists of trousers, shirt, and a trouser belt, Type 2 leather service shoes with leggings, an M1 helmet, an M41 field jacket, as well as a haversack, cartridge belt, canteen set, and bandage pouch. And of course you cannot forget the standard issued M1 rifle, but we'll get to that in a later video. In addition to these uniform elements, it is also strongly encouraged to acquire at least one wool blanket. The more the better, not to mention these work as great haversack fillers when you're starting. In terms of finding where to acquire these items, there's dozens of reproduction World War II companies that create and restore uniforms and equipment for the intended purpose of being used by reenactors for their respective impressions. Websites like eBay are also a good source for finding original equipment and uniforms for decent prices. The link to all of these websites seen on screen can be found in the video description below. Your local antique and army surplus store are also good locations to find gear. There are also vendors at reenactments who have plenty of surplus available. You can sometimes find real gems out there in these obscure locations. With all of that in mind, we hope you enjoyed. Be sure to keep an eye out for future videos, where we'll be going into further detail about the specific items that will make up your basic infantryman loadout.
And remember,
you're in the army now, you're not behind the plow. You'll never get rich while digging a ditch, you're in the army now. You're in the army now, you're in the army now. You'll never get rich on the salary which you get in the army now.